Welcome to the cabin. Well, it's Orktober, so today we're gonna paint an Orc special character for 40k called Ufthak Blackhawk. Let's get to it. Ufthak is featured in a series of novels from Black Library written by Mike Brooks. Games Workshop produced a limited edition miniature for him earlier this year, and I was given this mini as a gift from my mother and her partner. I've saved him for the right moment, and with Orktober upon us, I couldn't wait any longer. I really like that the sculpt is full of character, and the mini was a joy to build. My plan is to use a quick scheme with contrast paints, adding some optional extra highlights at the end. I started by undercoating Ufthak with Chaos Black. I also airbrushed on a thin coat of Abaddon Black to ensure I didn't miss any hard to reach areas and to achieve the correct finish. Next, I prepped all the would-be yellow details by base coating them with a few layers of Emperor's Children. Translucent yellow paints usually don't look good over black, but over pink they turn orange, which is a great color for the shadows of these areas. Here, the previous application of Abaddon Black also helped, as I could go back to the black paint and fix any mistakes I made. To get everything ready for the contrast paints, I used my airbrush to apply a zenithal highlight using Liquitex Titanium White. This set up all the shadows and highlights and will help get the most out of the contrast paints. To seal the white ink, I applied a thin coat of satin varnish. With all the prep work done, it was time to get out the contrast paints. The armor plates were painted with Iyanden yellow. I'm happy my plan worked with the pink base coats. Later, I also painted one of the cables on the shock rifle with this color. After that, I used Blood Angel's red on the skin of the pet squig known as Princess, as well as Ufthak's eyes, the trophy hair, and later another one of the cables. I went back and forth a bit about what color to use for the skin, but in the end I went for a Militarum green to achieve a slightly desaturated shade for a more grim dark look. For the cape, fabrics, and other dark areas, I started with Achillean green. It might look odd now, but after a coat or two of Basilicanum gray, the surfaces look almost black with thin highlights of blue. I painted the eyes on the Drukhari helmet with striking Scorpion green. And then I used Achillean green on the rest. This was followed by Dark Angel's green to darken everything. The leather details were painted with Cygor brown. I chose Volupus pink for Ufthak's tongue and the gums of Princess, while the tongue of the squig was painted with Shyish purple. I used Skeleton Horde for all the teeth. The Snaz hammer has a blue panel which I painted with Leviathan blue. I also used this color on the final cable. All the silver parts, such as the weapons and chains, were painted with Leadbelcher. I then shaded these with Nuln Oil. There's a tiny rock in front of the squig, which I painted with Basilicanum Grey. For the bronze details, I used Sycorax Bronze, followed by a wash of Reichland Flesh Shade. The final touch was to simulate the glow on the shock rifle. I started by painting these areas with grey cere, and then applied Talisar blue over them. Here's what the model looks like at this stage. I would say it's ready for the tabletop, and you could definitely call it done here. But I wanted to add some extra highlights to make everything pop just a bit more. I chose Phalanx Yellow to highlight all the yellow areas, and Trollslayer Orange for all the red details. For Ufthak's skin, I started with Skarsnik Green. I felt that the face and a few other prominent details needed a bit more definition, so I gradually added Ushapti bone to the green and applied a couple of extra highlights. I painted the cape and fabrics with Fenrisian grey, and the Drukhari helmet was highlighted with Sybarite green. Next, I used Tuskor fur on all the leather details. I then highlighted Ufthak's tongue and the squig's gums with pink horror, followed by Dekala lilac on the tongue of Princess. I painted all the teeth with flayed one flesh, and the blue panel on the snaz hammer with Altdorf Guard blue. After that, I used Baharoth blue for the glow of the shock rifle, and finally Runefang steel for all the silver and bronze bits. At this stage, I varnished the miniature with a 50-50 mix of matte and satin varnish and glued it onto the base. I then applied PVA glue and added Wasteland soil from Geek Gaming Scenics. Once it was fully dry, I brushed on burnt sienna pigment from Vallejo, and glued on a few Highland tufts from Army Painter. Finally, I painted the rim with Abaddon black. And with that, Ufthak Blackhawk is finished. It was a relatively quick paint job, but the zenithal highlight and contrast paints were very efficient. I'm glad I chose to add the highlights though, as it makes a big difference when looking closely at the mini. I have to say, painting Ufthak makes me want to do a whole army of orcs. But that would have to wait for another video. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and once again, a special thank you to Alnold over on Patreon. If you want to support us, all our links are in the description below. We'll see you next time. Good luck with your miniatures.